Welcome to Thriving with Trisha, the podcast for ambitious 20 somethings chasing big dreams and building lives they actually love. I'm Trisha, your host. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Thriving with Trisha. Today I'm finally sharing an episode all about the event I went to hosted by Emma Grede. I actually flew 20 hours just to get there to LA, and it was very last minute, but I'm going to walk you through the whole thing, how I got invited and how everything went down, what Emma said, and all the lessons that I took with me. If you don't know a lot about Emma, Emma is the co-founder of Skims, who, along with Kim Kardashian and her husband, Jens Grede, they both own a part of Skims. Also, Good American, the jeans brand by Khloe Kardashian. And she also has another brand called she's invested in off season with Kristen. And she's also one of the richest self-made women in the world. So she talks about this a lot because she grew up from a small neighborhood in South London. And she's, of course, just like a powerhouse. A lot of people respect her for everything that she has done growing all of these brands. And yeah, that's a little bit about Emma. But if you want to learn more about her, I definitely encourage you to research more about her and, just go on her Instagram. She's super active on there and her podcast. So before I get into the night itself, I want to answer a question that I was getting, which was, how did you get invited? And honestly, it was really unexpected. Emma posted on her podcast account, her Instagram stories, at Aspire with Emma Grede. And she had posted, when was the actual event? It was October 28th. So then it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the event. They posted a story saying that they are holding an event in LA for a select amount of people, and they were inviting some of Emma's listeners to come. It was basically a question box saying, explain why you want to go. And with these Instagram question boxes, it's like literally 2 to 3 sentences, maybe not even a full sentence. And yeah, I just put a little bit about myself. I think I said something along the lines of also having my own podcast, even though it literally just started. I said I just launched my podcast. And then I also mentioned our Instagram, I think the business Instagram at Sky and Soul Co. And I think I put a sentence because Emma actually talks a lot about how she also moved to America and how it was a whole new thing for her. And I think I might put a sentence about that I would also immigrated here with my family when I was younger. And yeah, something like that. And then when I actually sent it, it was literally for LA based people. And I didn't really think about, all the logistics going into it. I just figured, well, she's probably getting thousands of DMs for this, might as well just say a sentence or two about it. And then I think it might have been a week and a half before the actual event. That's when I got a DM back saying that I was chosen. And the event, I mean, it was a pretty vague, I guess, message back. It was just saying, we will give you the address later on. But you've been chosen, the dress code, and what's going to happen, which was that there was going to be a little teaser of the podcast, and that, Emma would be there and there'd be a little fireside Q&A chat. That's what they said. And it's really funny, honestly, that I got picked for this because I did the exact same thing for an event last month, which was for the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit. And it was also a Forbes reporter who had posted a question box on her story. And I did the exact same thing. And it's just now funny that I've gotten two yeses from those question boxes. So if you ever see anything like that, I would say don't hesitate to go for it, even if you think you may or might not get it. Just go for it, because you might have a pretty high chance and you never know. And honestly, at first I really vetted the DM because I wasn't sure, but it came from her official account, so I figured it was legit. And my next reaction after that, I was actually thinking if I should even go, because even though it was a really big opportunity, there was so much going on with the business, with work, and also the flight, like mentally from Puerto Rico is just so long and I was already dreading it. Like that's like a whole thing I was going through because it was only for one event, right? And I was like, is this really worth it? Like to be going all the way there and I take my sleep and my routine pretty seriously. So I was just like contemplating all of this amidst everything that was going on at the time with work too. But I figured that if I didn't go, like I would really regret it. And I'm really happy I did, honestly, because I would regret it. But I feel like, if there's like a really big opportunity like that, to just go for it because I was thinking about future me. I'm really glad I went. And I made it to LA. I like fast forward to the day of the event. The event was in West Hollywood. It was in a hotel called the Astor Hotel. Very chic, like very elegant hotel. Like right when you walk in, it's pretty modern, and it was right by all the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and so all the stars were right out there. And that was actually my first time seeing all the stars, which was really cool. I only saw it briefly when I like walked in and out, but I walked in and then they ushered me up the elevator with a few other girls. And then when I got out of the elevator, that's where the event was. At the time, there were maybe around 30 people when I got there. And the room wasn't huge, it was pretty intimate, but yeah, I guess I was still really nervous walking in because I would say I was one of the youngest people there. And also just with everything going on, there were a lot of influencers there who already kind of had their group. But then there were also some people just like mingling around. So that's kind of what I did. I was just checking everything out. They had a photo booth where they had like a branded, it just like it had a border and it had Aspire with Emma Grede at the bottom, and you could take a picture. And I'll actually like put the picture here. And there was also a little bar with some drinks that were Emma branded. And that was really cool. I think maybe 20 tables, like 15 to 20 tables of people that could fit like 3 to 4 people at each. So I ended up just choosing a table because I figured a lot of people are standing right now. I might as well choose a table before it gets crowded. I didn't get one near the stage. I got one honestly near the back because it was already pretty filled, but I got lucky, I would say. It was a bit of a serendipitous moment because I sat next to this girl. She said she was an esthetician. She does a lot of facials. And then, of course, I mentioned Sky and Soul. And, she was talking about her clientele, and it involved a lot of major celebrities. And so that was really nice. And honestly, I gave her some samples, and just good to be in a room with like those type of people because you never know who you can meet. Like literally next to me was also James Charles, and there were a lot of cool people in there, like a lot of people that I vaguely recognized, but like don't know their name off the top of my head. So yeah, I was just like walking around introducing myself. I met people from all over the world, which made me feel a little bit better, especially about the whole situation. There are people from Germany, from Singapore, from literally all over that also flew a very long flight and also had delays and all of that just to be there. And so like that was, kind of nice to know that I wasn't the only delusional one. But yeah, actually a majority of the people that I met were not from LA, which was really crazy. But it just goes to show how ambitious like the people were in there, and no matter what, like they will take the chance if they got it. And so finally, maybe after around 45 minutes of me being there, Emma walks into the room. She's like making her rounds. Everyone wants to talk to her, of course, but she just like took a few pictures with some people. And then she went up to the stage. Like they had to get ready, they had to prep 3 parts basically. So there was an interview with Emma, like a Q&A of questions just for Emma. There was a podcast snippet, and then there were surprise guests. So let me just start with the Q&A with Emma. So the event started with a conversation between her and Malika Andrews. And I just have to say, Malika is one of the best interviewers I have ever seen, like on the screen, off the screen, live. I had a brief stint in journalism, like in college, writing for our college newspaper. And I've always just loved it. Even in high school, I did that. And even now, of course, I like to write just for fun. But for interviewing, and of course, like with podcasts, right? But for interviewing, I feel like it's so different. And I've seen my fair share of interviewers who are also not that great. And even on the news, right? Like we see interviewers all the time. But Malika is so good. And honestly, I'm not super into basketball. in general. Like I don't really watch too many sports, but she is like an interviewer for the NBA, right? And her presence is just so good, and her questions, it's just questions that like you wouldn't normally think of. And so I just have to say kudos to her. I would say during this part, like I was just really trying to hone in and listen, and a lot of it was beginner questions, I would say, but like targeted towards the people who would really need it, like, things about starting a business, like knowing if an idea is good or not, and all of those things. But one thing that Emma said that really stuck with me is you can't fault the girl that you were yesterday for doing the best she could with what she had, because I think in our 20s we're so quick to shame our past selves. And why didn't I know better? Like, why did I make this stupid decision? But hearing her say that out loud, like, and she talked about one of her biggest failures, which was when she first moved to LA and she had an agency. I think it was a talent management company, if I'm not wrong, but maybe it expanded into other things. And she said she was too confident. She had just had a lot of success in the UK. She decided to move here and it just flopped. Like people she hired and all of that, like the results, it just did not do well. Like it was not making a lot of revenue. And so she was talking about how she just after a very short time, brought all these people, moved them to LA just to really prove her vision and everything. When you put your all into something for like a certain amount of time and it just doesn't work out. And so she was talking about that and then how she had to like fire literally everyone that she convinced to come to LA. And so going back to that moment where, she couldn't really like afterwards, she just had to get over it and keep moving because she that's what she knew at the time, and then she just had to like learn from that. And so the important thing is learning from it, right? And not repeating it. So the second time she came back around to LA, she was like, yeah, like I'm definitely not going to embarrass myself like that. I'm not going to do that. But it's more so just like the learning and the actions that you take from it. And of course, she did really well the second time around. We also watched a clip of her interviewing Tracy Ellis Ross. Tracy is so wise and funny. And if you don't know Tracy, because I didn't really know too much about her, I knew that she was an actress. I had seen her on TV. I did not know that she had her own hair care company. And I also didn't know she had such a huge following of like 12 million people. Like just has so many people like behind her and behind her vision, which is awesome. But she is so wise. Her thoughts on being comfortable alone, traveling alone, dating, just knowing herself, like she's so confident in who she is. And especially, at her age now, like she's definitely had all these experiences, which is really cool. So I loved all of it. And I think it's good for anyone at any age, really. Even if you're around her age or if you're maybe in your 20s like me, it's just good to hear because you can hear all the wisdom that she has to say. They kind of dimmed the lights for that moment and just had it focused on that little snippet. And after that, this is probably one of my more favorite parts of it because they brought out the founders of Cake's Body, the nipple covers. They were able to talk a lot about scaling a brand, growing it. I think a lot of the people in there, to be honest, they said it was a good mix that they invited. They wanted to invite people who had never done business yet. They wanted to invite people who were in the middle and people who obviously like have already such a big audience. For example, like James Charles. But even him, he actually asked a question on hiring, right? And like how to hire good people. And so that was one of his questions. A lot of people just asked about whether when when to give up on an idea and like when when to keep going. And their answer was really simple with that. Like sales cures all for Emma because, if something's not making money, then no matter how good it is, how much you love it, like at the end of the day, that's like what matters. And yeah, that part was really nice to me. Like I really love that part because after that, after the panel, I went up to every single one of them. And specifically for Cakes, I asked about TikTok Shop. And from this conversation, I just had like maybe 10 minutes with the co-founder because she ended up giving me her email. And I ended up getting on a call with the person who scaled their TikTok shop. If you don't know, Cakes only launched like, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And they started TikTok shop last year. And that alone made them a chunk of their revenue now. And they were able to scale and they were able to see like spillover from all of that because of how like strong it was. And yeah, that was just really interesting for me to learn. And so I was able to get on a call with Chrissy, who leads your TikTok shop, and she's super nice. And I think that call was honestly super helpful. So thank you, Christy. And, I'm going to keep going to her for advice, but it was really specific for the brand. So it was definitely a game changer. And I think that alone made it worth it, like the whole travel and everything, and just being connected to them, because now I can just email them anytime. And of course I can put like a face to a name and everything. So that was great. And finally it was time to talk to Emma. I guess the perk of being small and being younger and all of that, I think some people might not always take me seriously. Like maybe if you're like me, you might relate to that. And also being Filipina, like, definitely not always like the majority in the room. But I think one perk of being small, I think one perk of that is I can move my way through lines very easily. And Emma, she's the one who chooses who she's going to talk to, but like she saw me right after she talked to some people. And when it was my turn, I first showed her our products, and she was so excited about it. She like gave me a high five. She was super like encouraging and everything. And then I also asked her something, throughout this, I guess, event, I was like figuring what to ask her, because I had a long list of questions, like tactical questions. I had a long list of like mindset questions. If you listen to Emma and if you're watching this, and you probably know she talked a lot about mindset and just like showing the process. One thing about Emma that I love that I don't really hear from a lot of female founders, aside from maybe Layla Hermosi, is she talks a lot about the past, and then also a lot about the process, how she's literally scaled every little thing from zero to where she is now. So she takes you like in the building blocks, right? So maybe like Alex Hermosi does this, where he takes you like really at the start. But I like her because I think, I love a lot of female entrepreneurs out there, but I think a lot of them do a lot of fluffy stuff. And she actually said this, like, she's like, she said in one of her, like, one of the questions that was asked to her, like, yeah, guys, like, I love like manifestation and all of that, like, woo stuff. But like, I will say manifestation and, vision boarding, like, it's not what's gotten me to like where I am today. Like, there's still like the actions that that had to be done along with those things, like along with vision boarding and all that stuff. And so she really like breaks it down into actionable steps. And her whole point of starting the podcast just a few months ago, was to show people the process after everything she's done now. And so basically what I asked her was how she balances being ambitious and planning ahead while also staying present. Because I think that's one thing. It's like, it's always like a balance act, right? It's like it's hard to do that when there's so many things going on. But she told me something that just like was really grounded, which was get clear on your core values for the season that you're in. They'll anchor you. And then once you know what actually matters to you, you know where to put your focus. And I think for her now in her season, she mentioned that, she said to me that her family is a really big thing. Of course, her kids, she has like little kids, like under the age of 10. They're so cute, but she spends a lot of time with them, and, really just balancing that along with work. Like, it's never really a true 50-50 balance. Like, even just yesterday, like, she's on multiple flights this week, right? But like, when she's home, she focuses on her kids, and when she can, like, she does not miss, like, she makes it for all those big events. And so even though she has like a whole army of people to help her, she said, like, she basically just gets clear on what she wants in the moment. And I think that's really true, because maybe if you're in your 20s like me, you might be juggling multiple things, but maybe in the moment you're focused on your work, and maybe like you're just doing a lot of work. If you're like the same as me right now, I feel like that's a lot of what I'm doing, like especially in Q4. If you are more focused on like building your friendships, you might be in that season. Or if you might be focused on your health, right? And it's like, it's not to say that you can't be focused on all of these things, but you're definitely going to be focused on one thing, like one category a little more. Like for example, in the new year, right? Like a lot of people are honed in on like going to the gym, really like putting in the effort. I feel like that's like a big thing for people. So I think it really just depends on what season you're in of your life. And, it can change all the time. And I think now during this Black Friday holiday season, I'm definitely more focused on my work, but I'll definitely balance that with family time too, like when I go home and everything. So I think throughout the night, I kept writing down little things she said. So these are things that I just have written down in my notes. So, number one, she is good friends with Mark Cuban because she was a shark on Shark Tank. So, one thing that she wrote down is sales cures all. That just, I think, is pretty straightforward. Mark says this a lot, but if you're not making money, then your business is not growing, it's dying. And so that is one thing she says. And she said this to a lot of people overnight, right? Like, no matter how much you love the idea, sometimes you just have to cut it because it's just not doing great. And, that's if you've tried everything, of course, like make it work and it's still not good. And even if like you're starting out, like one thing she said to someone who was starting out was, this person was like, I love this idea. I think it's going to be a game changer for makeup artists. Like it's just crazy what it can do. And then she was like, you better do like your market research, like you ask other people, like ask everyone who's in your field, like to see if they're really on board with it, and then like do like a small test. But it really comes down to like if she said something funny, which was like either you're crazy or it's just a bad idea. Like either you're crazy good, and it's like the next big thing in makeup, or like it's just a bad idea. So, and even like the ideas that might sound good can turn out just not working just because you never know, and especially in this economy right now, like it's tough and you really have to know like the marketing behind something to sell it. So, aside from that, she said product is everything. If the product is good, a lot of things will follow. So I think this was said when the cakes people were talking because their product, like they really made sure it was the best nipple cover that you could find. And honestly, it is like when I first heard of cakes, when they flooded TikTok shop, like that's when I bought them. And also I started hearing from my friends, like everyone just started talking about them. But I just knew like if you ever get to try cakes, it is the best nipple cover. Like it does not hurt at all. Every other one that I tried before then was like so sticky, hurt so bad when you took it off, like literally hurt so bad. But theirs is it doesn't actually stick to your body. It just grip like it just kind of like it just holds on to it. It's like a little grip, but it does not fall off, which is like crazy. And they don't have so many, but they have multiple SKUs now aside from that one. But definitely check cakes out if you haven't yet. But yeah, one thing is like product is everything. And then if you have a good product, a lot of the things follow, like your marketing. And I know a lot of people think they have a good product. Like I know everyone thinks they have the best product, but like really test it out on like a larger scale. If it's good, then people are going to buy it. Also move fast. Oh, this is one that like a lot of famous entrepreneurs, but Emma emphasizes a lot. Like move fast. Like literally have the idea, learn fast, fail quickly, take action. Like you just need to be like, 75%, 80% there, and then you'll basically figure it out. But the quicker you move, like the quicker that you can get results. And so that's one thing that she talks about a lot that she's done over time. Know what your customer wants, listen to your customer a lot. She mentioned that a lot because your brand is like a reflection of what they also want. And if you want to like make them happy, then you also listen to them. She also mentioned that your flaws might be your superpower. So maybe when she said this, I kind of thought about how we're still starting out, like compared to a lot of skincare brands out there, but that might be our edge. And you can show kind of like the messy moments in between and things like that. And even like on a personal level, like what you might think might be your flaws, like what you might hide from other people, that's actually what people will be drawn to. And I have seen this with brands, like the quirky things about them or just the little things. Like you can lean into that rather than shying away from it because that's what's going to make you original, right? And like you won't blend in like everyone else. Learn openly from failure. So that is one thing she said, just like be open to it and just like once it happens, like if you fail at something, just like use that as a learning experience. You don't need a lot of investors. Cake's Body mentioned that Emma is their only investor. So Emma invested in them and they said like in the beginning they were so nervous because you know how investors can usually have a lot of control, a lot of say over like what's happening. But they said Emma has been like the most perfect, like ideal investor because she's just been great. Like, I don't know, they said like she's provided like the right amount of coaching, but also not overly controlling. And so they said, you don't need it, but it will help if you want to raise more money in the future, which I think they mentioned they might be doing. But you just need the right ones. You just need to also vet them as much as they vet you, you know? And then also, what Emma said was focus on just three things until you're excellent, like in your day to day. She said, like, give your focus. And even if you can narrow that down to just one or two things, because if you're spread so thin, then you won't be able to really have results. And I think that's one thing I'm working on. And now that I'm doing that for our TikTok shop, like, it's really helped a lot because now I think I've learned so much about it compared to a lot of the different areas that I've been, like, I guess, dabbling in. Like, since I put like my all into it, it's only been like a week and a half, I think, but like I've learned so much already, just like putting like all my focus into it, you know? And because you only really have a certain amount of deep work that you can do in a day. Like, I don't know about you guys, but after like 2:30 p.m., 3 p.m., yeah, like my productivity, like it just goes down. And so, and even more specifically, like my chronotype specifically is a bear, and I learned this when I worked with a neuroscientist over the summer, which was amazing. But I learned that my deep work, my official peak hours are 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And so that during the day, like I hate having meetings during that time. Like I usually reserve that for the stuff that needs the deepest thinking. And so, I encourage you to like go into that, but there's a whole tangent, but basically you only have a certain amount of like brain power each day. So if you can focus that, for me it's in the mornings, for you it might be the complete opposite, but if you can use that time to just put in the focus for what you need to get done, then you will get it done. And so showing up professionally. Oh, this is one thing that she talked about that kind of like got me thinking, because she said before like she didn't really care about her appearance as much, or yeah, just maybe the way she's presenting herself. But of course now she's able to do this more because she's reached the level that she's reached. But she hired someone to for media training, and how she can respond on stage and at public outings and things like that. She hired a makeup artist. She really like she hired a stylist so she can like nail down her personal brand and all of that. And so that was just really interesting to me. And I think even if you don't have the budget to do that, like just showing up like how you want people to perceive you is like a really big thing. And I think for me, especially if you work remotely, it's really easy to just roll out of bed and just like little get to work. But for me, when like I find that when I like do like at least my brows or like put on a shirt, and like I've been really intentional about this, especially I would say within the past few months, where like I really put thought into my outfit like going into the day, because it makes me feel like, when you show up your best self, like your mind like automatically goes into that. And so like even with meetings with people at home, like I really try to put a bit of effort now. And yeah, so that's one thing. But of course, for this podcast, like this podcast is supposed to be like a little cozy, right? So like I'm in this sweater right now and just like some shorts. And yeah, I actually want to pitch some like cozy brands for some PR. So, and then also, lastly, one introduction can literally change your entire business trajectory. She said that, who knows, someone in this room, and I think people say this a lot, like, but like, she was like, who knows, someone in this room might be your future business partner. Like, someone in this room can literally change your entire business. But it's so true. Like, one introduction, and that's why sometimes when I'm nervous to go out to people, like, I just think about that. Like, maybe if I just, one meeting one person can change everything. And yeah, who knows? Like maybe like one of the people that I met there could change like the business, and hopefully like that's the case, right? Really just reminded me that like if you're ambitious, if you put the work in, then like a lot of things can happen, and just to surround myself with people who are also like-minded like that, even if it's not people I would talk to like normally on a day-to-day basis, but like being in the room with those people kind of forces you to think like that, right? And yeah, it was really a fun event, and I think, I wanna be doing more of those in 2026, because imagine that was just one event for a few hours. So if I can do those events, like, literally every week, multiple times a week, and being in those places, like, that'll help the business a lot. And so that's what I wanna do more of 2026, like, just being more in the community, being more intentional about who I'm talking to. I'm just really glad I said yes, even though I was super stressed in the moment, looking back, like, I'm so glad I went. And it was definitely one of the most impactful decisions that I've made, at least in the past few months. And so here's a reminder that sometimes you just have to step in the moment before you feel ready for it. And if you want all the lessons written out, I wrote a full Substack where I actually put all of the lessons, like from 1 to 10, like what I learned, what I talked about just now. If you want it visually, because I know some people learn better that way. If you want that, definitely check that out. I'll link it below. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone and, tag me on Instagram if you listen to it and share it. And yeah, tune in to the next one. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in to Thriving with Trisha. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you hit follow, leave a review, and shared it with someone. I'll see you on the next one.